You ever wonder what leaky gut is or why people talk about it and what it has to do with our health and, well, not besides just knowing what it is, but what is it doing to us? So we always heard that the gut is the window to the rest of our body. Well, what does this really mean? So if your gut is inflamed or you're having this leaky gut, you're having things like bloating, brain fog, fatigue. These autoimmune illnesses all start in the gut because of this leaky gut. And maybe you're having that stubborn weight gain no matter what you're doing with your diet or replacing hormones and all your activities. Well, your gut could be the culprit. What is leaky gut? Well, our gut has a lining to it that's one cell layer thick. So if we look here at the normal gut on the left, we see that things go into our gut, into this top part. We're breaking down the food into the particles and such, but also things that come in are toxins and bacteria and viruses and things that our gut really has to kill off. And we don't want it going from our gut into our bloodstream. These little cells, these little gut cells, will come in here and they are one cell or thick and they're held together like this little glue called zonulin. And they hold them tightly bound so that food and pathogens and viruses or bad things, bad bacteria, doesn't go straight from our gut into our bloodstream down below. So what happens is that when we have things in our gut like bacteria, viruses, or toxins, or chemicals, or pesticides, they will irritate our gut and those little gates will open up between the cells. And that will allow these bad things to go from our gut into our bloodstream. And then when that happens, our body picks up these things as warnings and it causes inflammation, which leads to pain, or skin rashes, or just overall not feeling good. And when our body's inflamed, it just doesn't work well and we can't feel better. So what happens is that our immune system will attack it, and that's where the autoimmune things will happen, and we'll start having not only autoimmune, but it'll weaken our other immune systems as well. So the gut is our gateway to our body. And if you don't repair this leaky gut, you can't truly heal things like with hormones. Your hormones get imbalanced, your brain gets all messed up, you start getting brain fog and fatigue, and you just don't feel good. And like I said, your immune system gets triggered. So it's very important that we keep this critical interface between the body and the outside world, because when it becomes compromised, the effects ripple through your entire body system. So what causes leaky gut? Well, first, we're going to talk about how chronic stress is really bad. That cortisol that gets stimulated from our stress just breaks down that lining of the gut. And over time, it allows our good defenses to not be there like they should. But what about poor diet? Like all this sugar that's so inflammatory and just wreaks havoc on our body, because sugar is definitely inflammatory. Or alcohol. You know, we use alcohol to kill things. Well, we don't want to always, alcohol has things that kills off our good bacteria that we need in our gut. I bet you didn't think about that. Also, gluten has just gotten a really bad rap because gluten has changed over time. It's very inflammatory in our gut now. Our food has changed to have more gluten in it, but not only that, it's been genetically modified to really cause inflammation in our gut and in our body. What about all these processed foods that we're having? All this stuff, the fast foods, they're putting all these preservatives and chemicals and additives. These things are not natural and our gut's not used to it. So our gut just goes into shock from all this stuff. And not only that, the medicines that we're thrown in our body all the time, all these antibiotics, they're killing off our good bacteria. We need our good bacteria or else things just will get destroyed. So we need these natural things that our body is supposed to have, not killing them off with antibiotics and anti-inflammatories like Advil and Tylenol and ibuprofen. Those things are so bad. But what's even worse is that people start having gut problems with reflux and they're like, oh, I eat and then I get all this reflux and I feel bad and it just burns. Then they'll take an antacid, which is even more damaging to the lining of our gut. So we've really got to learn about what we need to do about all this and what our alternatives are, because there are natural ones that we can do. But what about the environmental toxins, the stuff that we're like breathing in, then we swallow, like the mycotoxins, the mold and water damaged buildings, or the pesticides that I mentioned, or the herbicides, or even the heavy metals that are in our environment? All these things are damaging to our gut lining. And then we start having gut imbalances. We'll start having like more and more problems with bloating and constipation and diarrhea. Our gut bacteria just gets off balance. And this just causes more and more inflammation and damage to the lining of our gut, which is so vital for our health. So what are the symptoms of leaky gut? Well, like I mentioned, you can have bloating and gas, constipation, or diarrhea, or both. You can have food sensitivities that just piled up all of a sudden. And all the time you just have this abdominal pain and bloating and discomfort, or like I mentioned, that indigestion, that reflux. But more so, besides just having these gut symptoms, it leads to things like fatigue, low energy. You could be having brain fog, poor concentration, joint pain and inflammation, those skin rashes like eczema, acne, or all these other rashes you don't know why they're happening. But even more so, people want to know, why am I having so many thyroid issues all of a sudden? Well, the thyroid issues really start in our gut. So these long-term risks can include these autoimmune things like Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, or other autoimmune things like rheumatoid arthritis or psoriasis. It can cause this chronic inflammation. And when we talk about metabolic disorders, that means how our weight's controlled. But there's also a thing called the gut-brain connection. Leaky gut just doesn't affect your digestive system. It affects from our gut to our brain. And when we're stressed in our brain, it affects our gut. That's that bi-directional going back and forth that we have. These gut issues can manifest as anxiety, depression, brain fog, concentration problems. Stress and emotional trauma can really trigger these gut problems. And healing your gut often improves your mental clarity and your mood and everything else.